Imagine being yelled at by your own son in front of a crowd. "Dad, go out, you're not invited here, don't embarrass me." I left the present and the last of my pride on a linen table and walked out. 2 hours later, trays were covered, bouquets boxed, and the fairy tale collapsed. I didn't ruin anything. I ended the funding. That's justice. Before we continue the story, let us know where you're hearing from and share your thoughts in the comments below. Then I'll tell you exactly what I did. Zilker Ballroom gleamed like a showroom, all glass and chandeliers and bluebonnets in high crystal. I stood there with a square gift I'd wrapped at my kitchen table, the ribbon the only thing shaking. The string quartet floated something pretty into the air, and then it snagged on silence because a father at the door stopped being family. "Ethan," I said, not loud. "Son." He didn't flinch at the word. He pivoted his body just enough to block mine, an instinct he must have picked up in boardrooms and golf clubs, not ball fields. "Dad, don't make this harder. You're not on the list," he said, eyes clear, cool. "Ava's parents have expectations." Ava stood half a step behind him. Perfect posture, perfect smile. She kept her gaze on the photographer, but lifted 2 fingers at security without breaking the picture. The signal was small and precise, the kind of choreography you plan. I watched the motion and felt it like a blade slipped between ribs, not because it was cruel, but because it was practiced. "Immediate family only," said the venue manager, Morgan Price, arriving late to a decision already made. Her tone was professional compassion, the kind that lands like velvet and bruises anyway. "We can escort you out discreetly." "I'll walk," I said. 2 women in satin whispered behind flute glasses, conspirators in the theater of manners. A man in a midnight suit lifted his phone chest high, hesitated, then angled it for a better shot. It's always easier to witness than to intervene. I looked for my name on the place card table, even though I knew I wouldn't find it. Little tents of white card and gold ink promised belonging to other people. My hands, the ones that have poured concrete truer than a level and kept men safe in summer heat, set the gift down between strangers' names. The ribbon made a small hush against linen. I felt foolish for having tied it so carefully. "Dad," Ethan said again, but this time it was flatter, like he'd already moved on to the next item on a checklist. "Please." Please used to mean a bedtime story, a push higher on a swing, extra fries after a Little League game. Today it meant disappear. I let my eyes do the thing I'd been avoiding. I searched his face for the boy who used to sleep on my chest on Saturday afternoons, sunburned and sticky, trusting the world because I was holding it together for him. He held my gaze for the first time all afternoon. There was something like apology in it, buried under calculation and the relief of choosing the winning team. "Enjoy your day," I said, because I wasn't going to give them a scene to pass around later. "Both of you, thank you for understanding," Ava said, voice warm enough to frost glass. Security hovered a courteous arm's length away, as if proximity alone could carry out the order my son had just given. The doors sighed behind me and the air changed. Outside, the Texas heat didn't pretend. It pressed on skin, honest and heavy. Light off Lady Bird Lake came up from the water, hard and white. Somewhere a boat horn complained. A mockingbird worked the same 3 notes like it was paid to. The hum of conditioned air and curated conversation fell away, and the world clicked back into place. I walked past a lineup of cars that cost more than some houses I've built. Laughter popped from the open doorway, too bright and brittle, the kind of laugh that shatters if you really listen. I didn't look back. You don't check the window after you've tightened the bolt. You know whether it will hold. My truck sat where I'd left it, sun-faded and clean. I climbed in and closed the door, the sound solid enough to settle the tilt in my ribs. Inside the cab, silence came like a familiar tool, old, reliable, built to fit my hand. On the dash, the clock said what it needed to. Saturday, mid-afternoon, bank still open. I set my phone face up on the console. Fingerprints made a dull constellation across the glass, a map of everything I've held and let go. I scrolled to a number I rarely use because good systems don't need emergencies. First Lone Star Bank, Business Services. He had told me to leave. Not a manager, not a stranger with a badge. My son. I've spent a lifetime understanding how structures fail. It's never the rain alone. It's the hidden rot, the load shifted 1 inch too far. The moment somebody pulls a support and swears the roof will float on feelings. I took one slow breath, the kind that steadies a hand before a cut that has to be clean. Then I pressed call. First Lone Star Bank. Business Services. Patricia speaking. Jack Morales. Business account ending 97. I'm stopping all wedding-related payments. Effective now. She verified me date of birth. Last four. Two-factor code. I gave her every authorization code from memory. No hesitation. These are significant amounts. Are you certain? I am. Note the record. Circumstances changed. Stop payments are now in effect, she said, reading the confirmation numbers. Timestamp, 3:38 p.m. Central. Good. I called the vendors, voice level, spine straight. Marcus, Longhorn Catering. Authorization revoked. Secure your equipment and remaining inventory immediately. A beat of silence, then. Understood. Dispatching to the service entrance. Susan, Bluebonnet Florals. Payments canceled. Reclaim your arrangements while they're intact. A small exhale. We'll be there in 20. Barton Springs Quartet. Cut power cleanly. Pack your gear. Professional assent. Austin Linen. Policy on canceled authorization. Immediate recovery. Proceed. Emails hit my inbox in a run: bank confirmations, vendor acknowledgments, route plans. Each subject line a rivet in a boundary I should have drawn years ago. I wasn't raising my voice. I was restoring my name. I stayed in the cab and watched the heat quiver over Riverside Drive. Inside, the cameras would keep lying for a few more minutes. Outside, facts were already in motion. At 3:47, a white van rolled toward the service lane, Bluebonnet Florals in cobalt script. Bins stacked, ladder rattling. Behind it, Longhorn took the turn tight. No pretense. My son had told me to leave his wedding. I left the room, not my self-respect. I've built structures that stand in storms. Today, I pulled the supports I paid for. Let the roof prove what holds it up. Through the tall windows, I watched Bluebonnet's van nose into the service lane. Susan climbed out with two assistants, a rolling ladder, and a coil of clear fishing line winking in the back. They moved with quiet speed people who've done this before and hate that they have. Inside, the quartet floated 3 elegant bars, then hiccuped when Susan lifted the first arrangement from its stand. You didn't need sound to read the room. Heads tilted, elbows touched, phones rose. 2 women in satin stepped back in synchronized surprise, the way you do when a wave comes farther up the sand than you planned. The ritual of modern witnessing began. By night, every angle would find me. You could freeze Ava's smile holding one professional beat too long before it cracked. You could see Ethan's jaw go white. You could watch Morgan Price clipboard, badge, poise cross the floor with the face you wear when money stops speaking. Susan didn't apologize. She didn't perform either. She gathered white orchids in practice bundles, snipped lines, nodded to her team. The suspended installation exhaled and came down in a soft breath of petals. Guests parted for the bins like people part for gurneys too much space, eyes with nowhere safe to land. At the buffet, a Longhorn server slid a lid over a steaming pan. Another covered the carving board, knife paused, steam unwinding into air. Butter and rosemary surrendered to cold conditioning and the sweetness of flowers now out of place. The quartet leader lowered his bow, touched the mic, thought better of narrating anything. One nod to the cellist, a flick to the mixer sound gone. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It had weight. "Excuse me," Ava said, stepping into Susan's path with a charity gala smile. "We're in the middle of our reception. This can wait." Susan straightened without putting down the orchids. "Ma'am," Susan with Bluebonnet Florals. "Payment authorization was canceled at 3:40, confirmed by the bank. We're reclaiming our property." "That's not possible," Ava said, looking for Morgan. "Everything was paid weeks ago. It was the tone you use on a wrong latte or a slow valet. Contracts don't care." Morgan arrived already in the conversation. "Mrs. Reed Morales. Accounting confirms the same. All today's vendor payments originated from Morales Construction, and the account holder revoked authorization. Until there's an alternative payment method, our policy requires vendors to secure their assets." A man in a dark suit barked a brittle laugh, the kind you use when you're afraid you'll be asked to help. Another murmured, "Are you seeing this?" to his phone. Someone tried to clap the mood back together and let both hands fall. Ethan cut across the floor in fast, tight steps. "You can't do this in the middle of an event. he told Marcus from Longhorn, who'd just arrived with a clipboard and a set face. We have a schedule. We have policies, Marcus said, already signaling his crew to kill Sterno and break down risers. He didn't raise his voice. Professionals don't. Case lids clicked. Coils of cable folded like ribs. A black-shirted tech killed the ambient wash, and the chandeliers turned cruel in the honest light. Empty vases appeared where centerpieces had been, damp circles on linen like ghosts of what the room wanted to be. Let me call my father, Ava said, which would have been a line if she were marrying into anyone else's name. Ethan pulled his phone at the same moment my console lit. His name filled my screen in white. Through the glass, I watched him press the phone to his ear, scanning for an exit that wasn't there. My phone buzzed again. I left it face up on the console and let it glow against the headliner. Morgan kept her tone warm and firm. We're happy to continue once there's a valid form of payment on file, she said. The kind of I'm sorry you offer when you're not the one who should be. Until then, we need to clear the altar and the dance floor for safety. Ava tried charm, then volume, then a stillness that photographs poorly. This is a misunderstanding. She told no one who could fix it. He wouldn't. She didn't finish. He would. He had. A server murmured sorry as he lifted champagne flutes, the apology you give when you carry away someone else's illusion. A centerpiece brushed a tuck sleeve. The man recoiled like pollen stains. A bridesmaid hugged her bouquet tighter, the last color in a room going neutral. Emails stacked in my inbox, bank confirmations, vendor acknowledgments, route plans. Outside, heat turned Riverside Drive to water. Inside, the scene looked like a strike after closing night, the efficient undoing of a story. The difference was, it wasn't the cast taking bows, it was the crew protecting their livelihood. Ethan turned a slow circle, spoke to Morgan, to Marcus. To Susan, 3 short talks, 3 regretful headshakes. He looked toward the doors. My phone vibrated again, closer together now. Amazing how much weight one word can carry in the right throat. Dad. A word he'd used 6 minutes earlier to remove me. A word he wanted now to put things back. Under the chandeliers, the last notes died in wood and velvet. The room exhaled and became just a room light on glass, manners stretched thin, people pretending not to stare. My thumb hovered over the green circle, then moved away. I had built him a world that never said no. He told me my name didn't belong in it. I let the phone buzz against the console and ring. I drove home, let the front door click shut behind me, and stood in the quiet that only your own house can make after a day like that. I turned on the desk lamp and pulled the first drawer. Paper doesn't lie if you've kept it. I have. A new spreadsheet blinked open. Columns. Date, description, category, amount, running total. The cursor tapped like a metronome. I started typing. K-12. Tuition, uniforms, activity fees, 12 years of private school, so he didn't start behind anyone. Early years near 8,000, later years 12. Receipts and transfers matched report cards. Subtotal, $125,000. Running total, $125,000. College, heavier files, tuition, room, board, fees, mandatory experiences that arrive dressed as opportunity, bursar statements, a summer abroad invoice pretending to be curriculum, 4 years at roughly $55,000 a year plus living. Subtotal, $286,000. Running total, $411,000. Transportation. First reliable car at 16 because the late bus wasn't safe. Then upgrades first for safety, then for image. Insurance repairs I covered quietly. Subtotal, $78,000. Running total, $480. $9,000. Housing after graduation. Rent in the right zip code, deposits when roommates rotated out. Utilities when payday missed due dates. Subtotal, $132,000. Running total, $621,000. Personal and overflow. Phones replaced when screens shattered. Cards caught when balances outran discipline. Clothes for interviews. Weekends for networking. Monthly transfers I labeled stipend so I could sleep. Subtotal, $168,000. Running total, $789,000. Wedding. Deposits. Balances. Upgrades the difference between standard and signature. Imported florals. A carving station added late. Lighting to make everyone look like their best self. Subtotal, 150, $2,000. Running total, 940, $1,000. I let the number sit, $941,000. Not a surprise, all of it together was the truth. I didn't feel rage. I felt something cleaner. This isn't revenge. It's an audit. I printed the summary and built 5 folders. Education, transportation, housing, personal, wedding. Each got a cover sheet with subtotal and source docs behind it. Bank statements, receipts, emails that confirmed arrangements without ever saying thank you. I drafted a 1-page chronology, dates, amounts, reasons, so any reader could follow logic without emotion. On the shelf, a photo of Ethan at 8, gap-toothed and sunburned, clutched a Little League trophy. I turned it face down, not to forget, to work. I scanned everything into a shared drive and attached the spreadsheet to one email. Subject, documentation plus strategy. 9 a.m. Dana. Attaching financial summary, categorized evidence, and a proposed demand outline. Goal, formalize boundaries. 30-day repayment, no informal contact. Please confirm. Her reply landed in 2 minutes. Confirmed. 9 a.m. Congress Avenue. Bring hard copies. We'll draft today. Missed calls stacked on my phone. I didn't press play. I set an alarm for 7, slid the 5 folders into my briefcase, and turned off the lamp. Paper doesn't lie. Neither do numbers. Tomorrow, neither would I. Dana's office on Congress smelled like paper and outcomes. We didn't chat. We built. 5 folders on the table. Education, transportation, housing, personal, wedding, my spreadsheet on top. Dana wrote while I answered in numbers, not adjectives. She read the demand aloud as she drafted. Repayment within 30 calendar days from receipt. Failure triggers civil filing. All communication to counsel. I initialed every page. A clerk slid the packet into a tamper-evident envelope, scanned the barcode, and time-stamped it. 11:12 a.m. Central. Destination. The Driscoll. Signature required. For Dick and Root. My phone lit up, not family, partners. Jack, hearing noise, Tom Bradley said. Everything solid? It's documented, I said. You'll see the proof. Bob Martinez called next. People say you ruined a wedding. I stopped paying for people who cut me from family. There's a difference. Online, Ava's Circle pushed a soft-focus fairy tale with a villain. Pretty photo, pitiful caption, comments full of shock and cheap sympathy. Dana didn't even look up. No posts. No replies. We answer with records. Media emails landed within minutes. One from KXAN, statesman Kelsey Tran, asking for comment on allegations I canceled payments mid-reception. I gave her a time, a place, and the terms. Tomorrow, 9:30. Here. You'll get clean copies and unrecrocked answers. Publish what you can verify. She said yes, like a reporter who's just found steel. For the day's inquiries, we issued one holding statement that didn't play nice. Mr. Morales will present 25 years of bank statements, invoices, and receipts tomorrow morning. He will not litigate on social media. His only on-record comment today is this: I am not an ATM with a last name. If you erase me from family, you erase yourself from my accounts. Entitlement has a price, and today it came due. It wasn't soothing. It wasn't meant to be. The sentence did 2 things at once. It told the truth and made liars uncomfortable. The Driscoll front desk called at 12:03. Certified delivery for Miss Reed Morales. Signature obtained. Good. Record made. We stacked fresh sets of evidence for tomorrow's press review and scheduled a short availability for 10:30 after Kelsey's first pass Austin Business Journal, KXAN, The Statesman. Dana's assistant shrink-wrapped each set-like product because that's what facts become when rumor goes to market. More calls. 2 friendly warnings from people who love proximity to flames. 1 blocked number. I let it die. Dana refreshed a social panel. The pity post was peaking. I watched the curve and didn't blink. Peaks fall when gravity shows up. Anything else you want on the record for the afternoon pieces? Dana asked. Yes, I said, and dictated it clean. If you host a party on my dime, you host it on my terms. You disinvited the man who paid the bill and expected the bill to forget. I withdrew funding. They call it cruelty. I call it accounting. She sent it to 3 desks that still value signatures over screenshots. Within the hour, a sidebar ran my line, clipped and sharp, next to the victim narrative. It read harsh because the truth sounds harsh when you've lived on favors. I stepped to the window. Congress traffic hummed. The crosswalk chirped its 3 beeps. Normal life doesn't need permission to continue. Inside, we boxed proof and sharpened silence. Tomorrow, we'd cut with it. At 9:30 sharp, Dana's conference room was a grid of proof. 5 shrink-wrapped folders at each seat. A projector threw a timeline across the wall. Year, category, amount, running total. Header, 25 years of support, documented. Kelsey arrived with a recorder and a legal pad. On the record? On the record, I said. No embargo. Verify anything. Dana set the ground rules. Bank statements, invoices, emails, signed confirmations. We're not arguing online, we're publishing receipts. I walked Kelsey through the columns. K-12, tuition, uniforms, fees. College, bursar statements, housing, mandatory programs. Transportation, purchases, insurance, maintenance. Post-grad housing support, personal overflow, phones, card payoffs, wedding, deposits, balances, upgrades. Totals stacked until the number sat still. $941,000. Why now? She asked. Because boundaries aren't real until they're documented, I said. This isn't punishment. It's accountability. Are you doing this out of anger? Out of accuracy. She checked the source docs herself. Matched dates, traced transfers, circled amounts, scanned pages, compared PDFs to stamped originals. No drama, just work. Rafael Ortiz stepped in. Clean work shirt and scrubbed hands. I've run crews for Jack 15 years. He buys uniforms, pays for classes, locks the yard at dark. That list on the wall doesn't include time. What do you say to people who think a father ruined a wedding? Kelsey asked. I stopped funding services I was paying for, I said. Vendors protected their equipment. The venue enforced policy. If people want a different story, they can bring different facts. At 10:30, we opened the door to Austin Business Journal, KXAN, and The Statesman. Dana repeated the rules. I stood where the projector framed the math. Questions came clean. Was any of this alone? Were expectations communicated? Why publish publicly? Answers were plain. Formal gift letters are rare. Expectations were assumed incorrectly. We went public because the counter-narrative was already public and defamatory. Kelsey saved 2 for last. What does reconciliation look like? Not today, I said. This is a record, not a reunion. Takeaway for readers? Love without boundaries breeds entitlement. Facts outlive posts. At 12:06, KXAN pushed a web alert. The Statesman followed. Then Kelsey's byline. Timeline of financial support undercuts viral wedding claim. The lead didn't flatter me. It didn't need to. It anchored to documents category totals, scans, vendor confirmations, and a first Lone Star Bank acknowledgement of a 3:38 p.m. stop payment call. It quoted Raphael, noted we declined moral spin, and ended with the demand letter's 30-day clock. Phones buzzed in chorus. Tom Bradley texted, knew there was more to it. Standing with you. The Contractors Association reposted with one line. Documentation. Gossip. The Business Journal asked for a broader feature on family finance and boundaries. On Dana's screen, Ava's circles scrambled to clarify, destroyed, softened, to disrupted, cruel to complicated. A country club account quietly untagged their support post. Then pressure found its way home. A mutual contact flagged a Reed family. Immediate meeting over reputational risk. Another mentioned annulment council. The Driscoll called again privacy flags removed at guest request. I stepped to the window. Congress Avenue was bright, and ordinary trucks humming, crosswalks chirping. Inside, the narrative tilted under its own weight. My phone lit with an incoming call. Not private, not unknown. Ethan. 1 ring. 2. Across town, the Reed house was closing ranks. Ava choosing advisors, and my son learning how quickly image stops returning calls. I let it ring, set the phone face down, and slid the top folder back to the center of the table. Ready for the afternoon round? Dana asked. Always, I said. After the documents went public, My office phone hummed like a transformer. Contractors texted screenshots with thumbs up. The association reposted Kelsey's piece. Outside on Congress, traffic kept its ordinary promises. Inside, the numbers on the wall did what numbers do. They outlasted feelings. Ethan's first message hit at 9:58. "How could you do this to me?" 5 minutes later, "You humiliated us." 10 minutes after that, "Pick up the phone, Dad." The word Dad arrived like a demand, not a name. I let them stack. Boundaries don't hold if you run to the fence every time someone leans on it. The voicemail came in hot and breathless. "You didn't have to do it like that," he said, voice too loud for the small room he was in. "You could have talked to me. Why did you have to make it public?" In the background, I could hear drawers opening, a suitcase zipper, a woman saying his name like a warning. Then the tide turned mid-message, the way anger does when it finally sees something solid to hit. "No, Ava, I'm talking. He paid for all of it. All of it. You told me to tell him to leave." A thud. "Don't say Brand to me. Don't—" The recording clipped and ended. A call from an unknown Austin number followed. I answered because sometimes you learn more by letting people think you're listening for orders. "Mr. Morales, Reed here," the voice said, smooth and used to rooms that clap. "We're arranging counsel. An annulment is the cleanest solution. A brief statement about emotional strain on your son." "Send it to counsel," I said. "All communication goes through Dana Whitmore." "You should be reasonable," he replied, which is what men say when they mean obedient. Through the line, muffled but clear enough, Ethan. "Don't talk to him like that." Furniture scraped. "He's not your employee." I could hear Ava trying to lower the volume and failing. Reed's voice dropped to a register meant for closing doors. "Ethan, this is not productive." I hung up. If a man's going to grow a backbone, he doesn't need his father on speaker while he does it. Silence opened for a minute, then filled with another voicemail. Ethan again, harder now, aiming in every direction at once. "You think you're teaching me a lesson? You just nuked my life." Breath. "No, wait." A slap of palm to something. "He's not an ATM," he told someone off Remick, throwing my line back into a room that didn't want it. "He's my father." I set the phone face down and read the demand letter one more time, not because I doubted it, but because precision is a kind of calm. 30 days from receipt. Non-payment triggers filing. All contact to counsel. It wasn't poetry. It was a beam schedule. Dana stuck her head in, read my face, and didn't ask. 2 afternoon calls confirmed, she said. Business Journal wants a wider piece on boundaries. Kelsey's package is leading the hour. She left me with the ordinary sounds of a law office printer's, shoes on carpet, a pen tapping time. The next text from Ethan didn't swing. It dove. "My friends won't take my calls. Ava's parents want me out by tonight." I stared at it long enough to feel the weight of what came next, try to move from his shoulders to mine. That's how these things always work. A lifetime of rescue looks like love until you notice the drowning never stops. Another unknown number, then. The Driscoll's front desk, polite and strained. "Sir, we're calling to inform you of noise complaints related to Miss Reed Morales' room. The privacy flag has been removed at guest request. Which guest, they didn't say." I walked to the window. Austin brightened in the heat. A cement truck groaned 2 blocks south. A cyclist ran a light and lived. The world kept moving. Consequences did too. The phone rang with his name again. For a second I saw him at 8, gap-toothed and sunburned, holding a trophy sticky with snow cone syrup. For another second I saw a grown man at a ballroom door telling me I didn't fit his list. Both things were true. That's what made this simple. The ring cut once, twice. Somewhere across town he was angry enough to burn a bridge and scared enough to build one. I let it go to the edge of voicemail, then turned the phone over in my palm. Boundaries aren't loud. They're clear. I put the phone to my ear and drew one steady breath, the kind you take before you cut true. "Dad?" "Start with the truth," I said. Air moved on his end, a rough inhale. "I told you to leave. Not security. Me. I chose the room over you. I'm sorry." "I accept the accuracy," I said, "not the apology." Silence stretched, then snapped. "You don't have to punish me like this." "This isn't punishment. It's accounting. You removed me from family. I removed my wallet. The demand letter stands. You went public. You did first," I said. "You and your circle made it public." I answered with documents. He tried for anger and found the edges dull. I need help. Just a week. Hotel. Food. I'll find work. Number. I kept my voice even. No transfers. No cash. No cards. For the next 30 days, I am not your emergency fund. I am your creditor. So that's it? You don't forgive me? His voice cracked on the last word like a boy at 13, except 13-year-olds don't sign catering contracts. Not today, I said. Maybe not this year. Maybe not at all. Forgiveness is not a line item. Boundaries are. You're really going to sue your son. I'm going to file a civil complaint against an adult who benefited from $941,000 without accountability, I said. On day 31, if the balance isn't paid or a formal plan agreed through counsel, my attorney files. This isn't a threat. It's a schedule. He tried a different door. We can talk, just us. No lawyers. All communication goes through Dana Whitmore, I said. You don't call this number again about money. You don't text. You don't show up. You email my counsel. If you want to act like an adult, use adult channels. Dad, he said, and the word finally came out as what it is when it's real. A reach, not an order. I opened my laptop. You'll receive an email in 2 minutes confirming what I've said. I typed while I spoke. Subject, proceed on day 31. Body, no interim transfers. Maintain stop payments. File complaint if unpaid by close of business on the 30th day. CC. Dana, me. I hit send. It's done. On the line, he breathed, like someone learning the shape of a new room. What do you want me to do? What you should have done years ago, I said. Work. Pay what you owe. Build something that stands without someone else's studs holding it up. I don't have anyone, he said, small. You had everyone, I said. You burned it. Now you learn. I'm not closing a door. I'm closing a tap. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I heard faintly the soft echo of a hotel hallway wheels on carpet, a distant door latch. Then he tried one last thing. Do you still love me? Yes, I said, which is why I'm telling you no. I didn't wait for the next word. Goodbye, Ethan. I ended the call, opened the client portal, and signed Dana's prepared authorization with my finger. A notification popped. Complaint drafting scheduled. Another email chimed from First Lone Star Bank stop payment confirmations remain in force. Outside the window, Congress kept its cadence. Inside, the room was very quiet. Facts don't make noise. They make consequences. I set the phone face down and slid the banker's box, labeled Proof, back under the table. Boundaries aren't loud. They're clear. The rest is gravity.